I think I met Rodney in 2018. It was at the FSR training. I got there a little early and he was already there, and he just welcomed me with open arms, and we began to talk. We had a a long conversation. We talked about life, family, and of course sarcoidosis. And I just kept on teasing him because he has such a swag to him, and I kept on letting him know. I was like, you have such a swag to you. And he would just laugh, and I was like, yeah, you remind me of one of my family members. And what really touched me was that he put his arms around me and gave me a hug, and he was like, you are my family. And that really meant a lot to me. He is truly going to be missed. He's going to be missed by the sarcoidosis community. He made such a big impact. I always would call him OG, because he just reminded me, he was an OG. And so, I used to call him that, and he would just laugh and put his arms around me and was like, are you good? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And, he always made sure that I was good. And that really meant a lot to me. I'm going to miss that about him. He was just a good person. He is truly, truly going to be missed. And I know he's going to be missed by the sarcoidosis community greatly. Rodney, may you always be in our hearts, and rest in peace.
Rodney Reese was the first person to welcome me at the 4-H Center in Washington, D.C. in 2018. For the flight home, Rodney and I usually got stuck at the airport because our flights left later in the day. We had a couple drinks and shared our contentions that more than autoimmune, that contaminated air contributed to our sarcoidosis. We were both convinced of this before the plight of the 9/11 firefighters brought it to national attention. My co-ambassador, Paul Parody, and his wife, Betsy, from Bangor, Maine, flew to Louisiana for Rodney's last 5K. I just bought the t-shirt and was a virtual attendance. Rodney was a professional firefighter, and I was a volunteer in rural Maine. I always appreciated that he never called me a cellar saver. I miss you, Guy.
It seems like so many people have been talking about how Rodney was the first person to welcome them, the first person to give them a hug, the first person to really make them feel part of a family here. And so I keep kind of replaying in my head every year, hearing his voice as my husband and I arrived at training. After a long car ride, we were exhausted and achy, but we started to open the door and we'd hear. Usually Rodney was one of the first voices, and that just immediately rejuvenated us. It made our hearts full. And, once we got through the door and into the lobby, there were hugs, and, we were refreshed, and that just, it just affirmed that we were there with family now. And I just, I've been trying to think about like what I would say here, what memory do I have to share? And, the thing is, so much of my memory of Rodney, it's not even the details of a specific moment. Like I couldn't tell you what he said on that first day or that third day or when we were here or when we were there. I could just tell you about the feeling. And, when we saw him at the FSR walk in New Orleans in 2019, he was so vibrant and so spirited and so alive, and he was dancing and he was laughing and he was just so Rodney. And I'm so glad that we got to see him that last time. But overall, there's always that feeling of love, of warmth, of joy, of care, of love. Did I say love? Because that really, that's who and what Rodney was, for me, for so many of us. And we'll always keep that love with us. He's always going to be here.